Welcome everybody back to the Spinner Rack. I'm here with my boys, Supreme, Superstar, and the wonderful Cal. Hey, what's rocking everybody? Today we're going to be talking about that episode, that series we had over at CW, Crisis on Infinite Earth. Was it what we expected? Was it what we wanted? Hey, that's why I got the two heavy hitters here. Give me something, Cal. Okay. Oh, thank you very much. So, what do you think about that, Superstar?
I think it was pretty entertaining, but it felt like they're trying to drag it on a little bit. I think it would have been cool if they stopped with the fourth episode.
Oh yeah. Overall,
yeah.
Interesting.
If they're gonna continue it with the fifth episode, they could have done a little more with it.
Interesting thought. So, what about the overall characters, the whole crisis and?
I like the crossover. I like how they put all the characters together. That's always cool.
Any characters stood out in front of you? Any characters that you like in particular?
I liked how they put Batwoman. She was cool. I don't agree with making her a paragon. Like maybe they could have gotten Batman, something like that. But I think Batwoman was cool.
That's cool. Thank you very much, Superstar. So basically here in Crisis, this is the end product of what the CW has been trying to do for years. They've been trying to bring all the worlds together, and this was their thing, the Crisis event. This is DC's version of End of Empire. You know what I'm trying to say? Infinity Gauntlet.
No, those are two totally different stories.
Similar, but they tried to do it. And so
There's no similarity.
I'm talking about these were big event comics that they came out with.
Crisis
tried to clarify.
Crisis not only came first,
yes, it
okay,
did.
but Crisis is a different story altogether. Whereas with the Infinity Gauntlet, you know, Thanos snaps his fingers and half of the universe dies.
Right.
Half of everything in the living thing in the universe dies. Crisis, they had already wiped out whole universes until there was only one left. Okay, now that may not come across in the television show. If in the comic, however, and by the time you get in the comic, you had already seen like one after the other were just getting wiped out. And then they finally had to make a stand about issue 7, saying, look, if we don't make a stand here with the remaining 5 universes, nothing's, it's just not going to go anywhere.
Which is great, again, but it was the big epic I'm trying to get to. So what I'm saying here is that we have this DC, that Marvel had the movie version, and now we have DC getting their hands on this. And the question is, was it successful? This is something they've been hyping for quite a long time. And I think I'm going to pass it on to my boy, Superstar Cal over here, and he's going to give us a little background with the comics and then go into his interpretation of what he thought he saw.
Interpretation? This is your nonsense. This is how you take your life in your hands on a regular basis. Anyway, comic-wise, I think we've already established that the CW is not for long-time comic readers like myself. Neither is it for men. It's for women and children. Okay, it's for women and children. It's for children who are like, wow, look at all the bright costumes, and this is cool. And for women who really don't care about this stuff. Okay, as long as it comes over there and there's enough soap operatic elements into it, they're fine with it. Now, for a hardcore, long-time comic reader like myself and other real able-bodied, red-blooded men like me, this may not have been up to your standards. But I went in knowing that more than likely it was not going to be up to my standards because Crisis was a 12-issue comic book. Now, mind you, you can accomplish a lot of stuff in one issue of a comic book as opposed to a TV show. So I already knew, look, a lot of stuff that went on, the nuances, the intrigue, the drama, the action, they weren't necessarily going to be able to get that. So I surrendered a lot of my desires and said, let's see what the CW has to present. I thought episodes 1 through number 3 were solid. Not exactly what I would have wanted but for the universe that we had to be given, I thought those were solid. The biggest problem I had, the Paragons, it became just so clear that these guys were the Paragons because, hey, they're already there and they're established. We can't have Batman as a Paragon because we got to get somebody in to go play him. We already got Batwoman, so hey, let her be the Paragon. That's pretty much the end of it. You had Superman as one of the Paragons, and who did they get? They got rid of him for Lex Luthor. Why? I have no idea why you did that. It wasn't like Brandon Routh. You couldn't just leave him there. And then but the whole idea is, look, a lot of people like Jonathan Cryer's portrayal of Lex Luthor, it's totally out of whack. It's not with Lex Luthor, but they like it on Supergirl, so of course they wanted to show as much of him as they could, and they showcase him. But again, episodes 1 through 3, okay, I thought were well done. Then we get to episode 4. I thought that was a little dodgy, you know. And then by the time I got to agree with Superstar here. By the time we get to episode 5, if you're going to do episode 5, we really should have a reason for episode 5 other than just everybody standing around in a superhero pose or, you know, trying out a chair saying, oh, wow, this feels good. This feels comfy. You know, I guess you can give it a solid B plus at the end of the day. I don't think it was an A showing. But again, the hardest part, it's not for me. I think a lot of kids who are CW fans and superhero fans enjoyed it immensely. It was 5 parts, 5 nights, world-ending stuff. And I also think, you know, a lot of the other demographic they're looking for were probably very pleased because they never read the comic in the first place. So there's nothing to really judge it against. So I think for the audience that they were gearing for, you know, I think that they did pretty well. I think the ratings were excellent, so I think they were very successful in doing that. And I have to take my hat off for them for even attempting something like this because it's an incredibly big story. You know, it's an incredibly big story, and at the very least, they went over there and tried it. DC hasn't even tried this in animation. Okay, and this is something they could have succeeded at in animation, but this would have been like 4 parts, you know, 2-hour movies or something, and they would have had to cut out a whole bunch of stuff. Here, the other thing I thought, the Easter eggs, the things they were throwing at fans, where you had Burt Ward, the original Robin from the Batman '66 series, was there. You have Kevin Conroy, who voiced Batman over, you know, decades in terms of the animated series. So they were really pulling everybody that they could into this. Brandon Routh, I thought, was the best in terms of, you know, how he looked as Superman. It was really nice to see him as Superman again. That last sequence where you see him flying, you know, in space once more, like, you know, the Christopher Reeve homage at the end of the films. I thought those were spot on. You know, I've never had a problem with guys doing that. And you know, really, you know, look, DC has a very rich history of television at the end of the day. It goes back to, you know, the Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. So that is something that I, you know, like that they embraced.
Well, that's great.
It wasn't 100% for me, but hey, I think the people they were aiming for were very happy with it.
So I mean, I got it. That's interesting. Very surprising. I didn't expect you to be as positive as you were. I agree with both you and Supreme, and Superstar Supreme in that the first episodes 1, 2, and 3, I think those are pretty strong generally, very enjoyable. They did introduce concepts that we were not expecting, particularly the Paragons, and how they chose the Paragons I thought was a little problematic at one point. But I thought that was because they wanted to push it forward to a new generation of. Well, they're really the whole.
They're superheroes. The superheroes who are the key superheroes on the CW. On the CW. And the only person who really should have been there was the Flash. Everybody else should have been off of that team.
But they had that other guy, the Asian guy, I forgot his name, who is probably going to become the Atom in the future. Who knows?
Oh God, I can't remember his name now.
His name, same. But he was the only one who was non-superpowered. But
yeah, he should have never been there.
Yeah. But I thought it was a good thing in that what they were doing, they're trying to reorder the whole CW universe, and new shows are coming out. Off of this, all the worlds, the conclusion of all this is that the worlds all come together, basically. Now, there's no longer Flash is on a different world from Supergirl. They're all living in the same world. You know, Batwoman is in the same world as them. Also, they have the whole thing with the Justice League is now being reconstituted. Or are they going to call themselves the Super Friends? Because they don't have an official title at the moment, you know. That's interesting. Now you can have more crossovers. And one of the inside jokes in this whole thing is that there are other people on different shows who never get to do the crossovers, you know, because they're so important. Only the people who are quote-unquote important or asked to do the crossovers come over. So, I mean, those are great things. I thought, though, the weakest part to me, and I kind of disagree with you guys, was episode 4, not episode 5. Episode 4, yes, you had the whole thing where the Arrow becomes the Spectre. You know, we see the progression, he becomes the Spectre. I think his powers, he should have come back in 5, but because he dies in 4, it destroys the Anti-Monitor. It reorganizes the whole universe and stuff like that. So that's why they had him die there. But then they had that second battle with the Anti-Monitor in 5, where they fight him and finally defeat him or shrink him into infinity, into the quantum verse or whatever. And I thought that, it was great to do that, but the way that fight broke out, to me, seemed more dynamic, more interesting than seeing, what is it that the Anti-Monitor was sending out? Raves?
Yeah.
In the crossover, they never spend time with villains. They never have good villains really that much out there.
No, he's a stock villain. To be honest, the Monitor came across more of a villain than the Anti-Monitor at the end of the day.
Initially, he did.
Because of all the manipulation he was doing.
Especially through Arrow and stuff like that. You're right.
Well, they were trying to juggle a couple of things. With one, Arrow's over. There's no more Arrow. The show's done.
Well, they're having Arrow and the Two Canaries. They just had a backdoor premiere the other day.
Thank you for letting me know, because that I was unaware of. But let me rephrase that. Who's the lead? Who's the lead on Arrow again? I'm forgetting.
Now it's going to be his daughter is going to be.
No. Who's the lead? What's his name?
Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell.
All right. So Stephen Amell's on the show, and he's no longer on the show, so he's off. And then it was okay. All of this started with Arrow. Really
the
Smallville.
Arrowverse, that's what it's called.
Arrow, really Smallville. But anyway, so all of this starts with
Arrow.
Arrow.
Superman, so I can't call it Smallville.
Yeah, whatever. It all starts with there. He's done. He's moving on, and they wanted to pay, some, really good, homage to him, and all the things that they got, because they wouldn't be here without the success of that show. That's what they're saying, even though it should be Smallville. So they come. So I think a lot of episode 5 was them, literally doing like an old school Greek woman lament of this guy being gone. If only, Ali and, Ali can't be gone. And I'm like, he's gone. we know it, even as viewers, we know this is pretty much the end of it. And then, of course, you don't want to be in a situation like they did with Black Widow. We're like, hey, why didn't she get a funeral? So these guys want to make certain that they gave him,
Right.
They want to like overdo it to make certain his spirit never comes back. And because of that, we could have, a Spectre versus Anti-Monitor in 5 might have been a bit more cohesive in terms of the story, but they were trying to juggle a couple of things. So I won't slate them for that at the end of the day.
And that's where I agree with you. I think that, this is overly, I don't think most people understand how large, like you said, it's 12 episodes, and these are big, issues, comics, and they had so much to do, and they had to pare it down considerably. But they did a good job of trying to get across some of the stuff. And, such a Superstar, what did you think? Did you think they did a good job overall?
He didn't like it.
I think it was entertaining. But
that's it.
Look at that face. I
didn't really.
It's a teenage face. That's typical.
Look at him. He looks like, oh man, if I don't get a burrito out of this, I'm gonna hurt somebody.
I didn't really read the comic, so I can't really give you an expert opinion. But I was entertained.
That's good.
It was pretty cool.
So the question though is that you both saw the ending where they show vignettes of different things happening in other worlds. You saw Brandon Routh as Superman. I forgot what 67 or whatever world he was on.
Who cares? These guys the numbers. They were like Earth 640 feet. I'm like, no, the numbers are out of whack.
So they're doing their own
I
thing.
think the other Adam was Raymond Choi. I think that was his name.
Raymond Choi, yeah. So the question is that do you think now this new change, you think you guys are going to start seeing more of the stuff? Because right now the Arrowverse, what's going to happen now is that Arrow's going away and we're getting Arrow and the Two Canaries. We're getting a new show called Stargirl. Flash is still going on. Batwoman is still on. By the way, Batwoman is, after The Flash, is the second most popular show.
That's good, because The Flash has maybe 1 or 2 more seasons left in it.
Batwoman is the second most popular show there, and it's held over 1 million viewers since it came out, which is pretty impressive compared to some of the others. Arrow had gone down to under 600,000-700,000. I think under the initial viewing. People would watch it later on, but the initial viewing was not as high as it once was. So that was impressive. And Flash was number 1, of course.
Well, he's a Flash fan. How many more seasons do you think The Flash has left in it?
I think they're gonna go up to season 7.
What season is this now?
3.
6.
Is season 6 already?
You said 3?
I think, isn't season 3 now?
For The Flash?
Yeah.
No. Where have you been?
Clearly, taking way too many cough medicines.
Yeah, spend too much time in that place. Anyway, and you know what place I'm talking about. Yeah. I don't see the Flash. I think they've gone pretty far. So you need Batwoman or some of these other shows to come up in terms of numbers.
Yeah, but they changed
that Arrow show. I don't see that going too far.
But here's a big problem I have with that. They changed the Flash's story. Remember the date on that thing where on the newspaper with Gideon, and something was supposed to happen where he disappeared.
Well, they keep saying he's gonna.
But now that stopped because of Flashpoint, because of this, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
But I'm saying then that whole storyline with his daughter is gone. You know what I'm trying to say? It doesn't happen. Because if he doesn't disappear, one of the impetus for his daughter in the Flash story was that she came back to find out who her father was because he disappeared. If he doesn't disappear, then anything that she had done in the past is gone. Got it? That's how it works.
Yeah, I understand. I don't know if the writers on the show understand that. You know, I don't know if they understand that. I'm pretty clear.
So overall, I gotta say we seem to be interested. We liked it. It wasn't bad. We think that it was very ambitious and you know.
Yeah, ambitious in a very good way. It you know, again, you know, A for effort, B+ for execution.
Yeah, I agree with that. Supreme Superstar.
Yeah, I agree with Cal. B+.
All right, Spinner Rack.